That's a bingo.
Down with Hitler.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, Quentin.
Okay. So
Please take a seat. In the middle here?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Quentin, it's good to have you in Hamburg. How has the city been treating you? Good?
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, you like it? Cool. Quentin, you know that the online marketing rockstars fair is all about brands. I would consider you being a brand as well. How do you define the Quentin Tarantino brand?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that because I'm kind of obviously I know what you mean when you say that, and that was one of the reasons they wanted me to come here, but explain to me exactly what you mean by brand, because I'm an artist just telling my stories. When I think of brand, I think McDonald's is a brand. I think Coca-Cola is a brand. So how would you describe a brand? When you're talking about a person or an artist or something.
No, exactly. I would say that the quality of your films is so special and something so innovative and creative in comparison to some of the things that we get to see, that it's a brand in itself that people would definitely go to the movie theater and buy a ticket because they know it's a Quentin Tarantino movie. Yeah. That would be my definition of a brand. Would you consider yourself in that context being a brand, and would you say it's a burden or it's a sort of a momentum that you like to take and move on forwards?
Well, no, the way you're describing it, it just sounds like New Age speak. In that, by that definition, Mark Twain was a brand. Charles Dickens was a brand. No, it's not a burden at all because I'm just doing what I'm doing. When it comes to writing the next story, when it comes to whatever that's going to be, that's always just me facing a blank page by myself. So I never that never gets into my head at all. It's not a burden at all.
The great thing is Philip has been doing this fair for a very long time, and he has found some amazing people who come up on stage and tell their story, tell their ideas. When you sat down for the first time writing a script, and I know that, for example, the first draft of Pulp Fiction was close to 500 pages long, and I think True Romance was close to it. How do you go about killing your darlings and staying true to yourself and to the idea and not getting knocked over by studio execs or what the public wants? How did you stay true to what you do, being a risk taker in that regards?
Well, okay, like for instance, in the case, you brought up True Romance, you brought up Pulp Fiction. That 500 pages is not exactly true. It was probably 500 handwritten pages, especially the way I was writing handwritten pages then, is probably 2.5 pages per one typed page. So and also it was the first thing I ever truly, it wasn't 500 pages. All right. And that was maybe the only time I actually cared in a big way about script page count, because from that point on, I just fuck it. However long it is how long it is, and I'll figure it out as I'm shooting. But that was back when I was still kind of working for a living. So I was offering up a script to TriStar, and they're either going to do it or they're not going to do it. So if I gave them a 250-page script, that would have been they wouldn't have bought. They wouldn't have gone for it. So the one time I actually was worried about the page count was on Pulp Fiction. But consequently, frankly, to tell you the truth, I I think we dropped 3 scenes out of Pulp, and that was it. All right, so it's not like, so that was not really one where you like kind of kill your darlings. What ends up happening more often than not is when I'm writing a script, I'll put scenes in a script that I don't think are going to make the movie. But, and sometimes even I don't even know if I want to shoot it because I don't think they're going to make the movie. But they make the script better. It makes it a better reading experience. And I just really care about the script being a good reading experience for people who read it. I'll make the movie. The movie will be the movie, and I'll make that for the audience who are going to watch it. I'm finding myself watching myself on TV.
So it's basically
looking at you guys.
story.
Sorry about that. All right.
To sell the story.
Yeah,
That's why you add those scenes.
Well, not to sell it. Just that I wanted to be a, I want the script to read like literature. Mm-hmm. I want it to read like literature. So I'll put stuff in there that I don't think will make the finished cut, but I think it makes the script better. And then I'll put, and some of those scenes, I'm wrong. Some of those scenes that seem like the most frivolous end up making the cut, and they're terrific. And then scenes, like you can't imagine not making the movie. Like if the studio said, "Well, do the movie, but you have to take this script, you have to take this scene out." Well, then I'm not going to make the movie with you. All right, but then you get down to the cutting, and then all of a sudden you thought it was the most important scene in the movie, and you drop it because it just ultimately you don't need it. It didn't work. You've moved past that. So I'm always doing stuff like that. But like for instance, but I mean, it's also surprising the weird things that make it. Like I remember when I was doing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we shot the scene where Brad and Leo are watching the FBI episode on TV where Rick's in that episode. And they're just kind of like, almost like Beavis and Butthead. They're just kind of like, they're doing a running dialogue about the episode as they're watching it. And I remember when I was like, as I'm shooting that scene, as I'm watching that scene, I'm like, wow, this shit is really great. This will never make the fucking movie. I'm not going to just stop the movie and have them watch an FBI episode and give a commentary track on it. Well, that absolutely made the movie. That was actually one of a lot of people. It was in the top 5 of some people's favorite scene because I needed to wrap that section up, and that was the perfect way to wrap it up. So you kind of never know. And I have the situation where I can film stuff. I can shoot the script. They give me enough money to shoot the scenes. So I shoot it all, and then I just figure out in the editing room what works and what doesn't.
So you love to take risks, and I think
but actually, to further answer your question, though,
yeah,
in that line, and this is where you kill your darlings, not so much leaving a scene out that you like too much, especially when it comes to making a movie, is all of a sudden, an interesting storyline will come to me that would really bring out a really interesting aspect of the character. But it's a movie. There's a finite amount of time. I don't have time to invest 20 minutes in a whole other subplot that gets in the way of the climax, as good as it would be, as fun as it would be, and as interesting and rich as it can be. It is a movie, and I have to get to the climax. So I can't afford this 20-minute detour.
The great thing is, I mean, you're a 2-time Academy Award winner. You are a director, a novelist, a scriptwriter, a director, a newly dead. Yeah. Congratulations on that one. And and I bet a huge inspiration for a lot of people out here. And this is the great thing about this fair, that they get to meet so many people who basically live passionately for their dreams and for their ideas. Is there anything that you could tell the audience in regards to that you started out innovating or renewing a genre in movies that had been long forgotten? Because you write amazing dialogues, the scenes and the people who are in it, you make them the best as an actor, as an actress.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anything that you could tell the audience in how they should, treat their dreams or go about them in the future?
Well, that's interesting. I guess the answer is, it's going to be different for everybody depending on what it is they want to do or whatever. But I think it's just, it might just boil down to something like, if you have a desire, if you have a goal to do something, if you have a vision to do something, no matter what it is, you don't need permission in order to do it. You need to commit yourself to seeing your vision through. You need to commit yourself to not worrying about the consequences, not worrying about what anybody's going to say. You need to, in my case, it's get it down on paper because I'm a writer. With somebody else, it could be a zillion different other things that you do, but you need to, as far as you can on your own, take it as far as you can. And try not to be in a situation where you have to get permission from people in order to do it. You just need to go forward and see if you're right about something. But the most important thing is maybe you tried and maybe you're not right. Maybe it doesn't work, but that doesn't mean you're faulty. Just means that this idea wasn't so correct. Or maybe you didn't know what the fuck you were doing when you were doing it. But in doing it, you now know more. Or just to give you an example, I can give you a big example. Actually, this is a better way to answer your question. One of the things that I'm the most proud about is I didn't go to film school, but I did try to make a movie when I was 26. And I worked on it for about 3 years. Like every few weekends, we would get some money, and I'm literally financing it from a video store job. And I thought I was making, I thought it was going to be the next Jim Jarmusch. I thought it was going to be like Stranger Than Paradise. I thought it was going to be this really cool, independent movie made on black and white, 16 millimeter, that would play the festivals, and I would be this like critical darling or something. And so we shot for like 2 weeks, and then for the next 3 years, we'd get together every once in a while on the weekend. And I couldn't even afford to process the footage. We didn't have any money. But then finally, we processed the footage, and I looked at it, and I realized I didn't have what I thought I had. This is not that good. Not only is it not that good, it's not worth any more of my time. It's not worth keeping investing in this because it didn't seem like there'd be an end in sight. And I had spent the last 3 years doing this. So as you can imagine, naturally, I was a little depressed about it. But after I got over being depressed, I kind of looked at the reality of the situation. And so I've been working on it for 3 years. The stuff is the worst was that stuff I did the first 2 weeks. But frankly, the stuff that I had done that year, the stuff I had done in the last 8 months, that was the best stuff in it. So there was an aspect, I didn't know how to make a movie at all. And after shooting from time to time, by the time the last stuff I did was actually pretty good. That was actually easily the best stuff that I had done. I had kind of learned what I was doing by the course of doing it. And so, this movie ain't gonna be shit, all right? This movie is not really worth my time. But I didn't go to film school, but I did get better from doing this. So rather than go to film school, I made a movie. Now, if you're me, it's a piece of shit and it's guitar picks, all right? If you're Robert Rodriguez, it plays in movie theaters. But the point being, the thing was, after that, I was like, okay, well, just treat that was your film school. You just spent 3 years going to a film school, and that was your film school. Okay, and then I sat down and I wrote True Romance. It wasn't that easy, but that was the next thing. The thing that I'm proud about, and this is the point that I'm trying to get at, is after spending 3 years on something and having it turn out to be a big, gigantic failure, most of the people I know, that would have been that. That would have been the end.
But you kept on going.
Yeah, they were like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is just not for me, and they would get a job or something. But I didn't. And like I said, I tried to look at the bright side of the whole thing. Well, it was a film school, and it was actually a pretty cheap film school. But the fact that I didn't quit after that is probably the thing I'm probably the most proudest about in my career, because pretty much everybody else I know probably would have quit.
Let's talk a little bit more about movies. Who is a fan of Inglourious Basterds? Okay, lots of people over there.
Shot that here. Not in Hamburg, but in Germany.
You created one of the, I think, greatest villains of all time, Hans Landa. But I would like to talk about something else, because you got to a point in your career where you sat down and you said, I'm going to twist history. You've not only done it once in Inglourious Basterds, but also done it in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Was that something that you intended to do from the very first moment that you wrote the script? Or was that something that you came up with at some point while writing it or while shooting it?
Different answer for the different movies.
Okay.
In the case of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the first thing I came up with was the Manson family going to the wrong house and getting their ass handed to them. So that was the first thing I came up with. And then I had to figure out who those people were. So I worked backwards. In the case of Inglourious Basterds, I had no idea I was going to do that. I had...
But good that you did.
No, I'm very happy I did. But the thing about it was, I just kind of, I wrote myself into a corner. All right, so, the Bastards have their mission. They're going to infiltrate the movie theater. Hitler is there. The whole crew is there. Himmler, everybody's there. And as I'm writing the script, and then all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, this plan seems to be working. This is all kind of working out. They've got the bomb on their ankles. They're in the theater. Okay, well, what the fuck am I going to do now? And it's like, well, I'm not going to do that old trick where, okay, they kill Hitler, but wow, it was a double. It wasn't really him. It was a double. Well, I was going to do that. And what? I'm going to have them sneak Hitler out the back door. I'm going to come up with some stupid excuse to sneak Hitler out the back door just before the theater blows up. Well, that sounds shitty. What am I going to do? And so it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I've kind of got to that point in the story. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm walking around. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I don't know. I could do this. I could do that. I'm walking. And then all of a sudden, I just grabbed a piece of paper and I grabbed a pen and then I just wrote, I took up the whole page, just fucking kill him, in reference to Hitler. Just fucking kill him. And then I'm like, can I do that? Well, hell, it's my script. I can do any fucking thing I want, all right? Okay, you know what? So I wrote it down, boom, 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 just fucking kill him. And I put it on my bedside table and I went to bed. And I figured when I woke up the next morning, either I'd think, oh, that's the fucking ridiculous idea, or I'd see it and I'd go, oh no, that's a great idea. I figured when I woke up in the morning after a night's sleep that I would realize if that was a good idea or a bad idea. And I woke up and it seemed like a pretty good idea. So, so that's what happened. So that was never the plan. I literally just wrote myself into a corner and that was it. Killing Hitler was the only way to get out of the corner.
And it worked out perfect.
It worked out pretty good.
Quentin, if we look at the movies that you've done, for example, Christoph Waltz, I mean, he won 2 Academies through Back to Your Work, and then Brad Pitt won it for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He worked with you twice. Leo worked with you twice. Out of all the people that you work with so far, are there any actors and actresses out there that you would love to work with? Because there's one question I'm going to ask you in a second that probably thousands of people have asked you already, because you said, I'm going to end my career at some point. Just one more movie. I know that we all don't think that it's going to happen. Hopefully it's not going to happen. But is there someone that you definitely want to work with out there?
Well, if you'd asked me that about 10 years ago, I probably would have named a couple of people that, oh, wow, I'd really look forward to working with this person or that person. I don't know if I feel that way anymore. Now, it's really just gotten to be, because I have no idea what the next movie is going to be. So now it's just about me writing the characters and then just coming up with the best actor to play the character. So I mean, 10 years ago, I probably would have named a few names and everything, but now I'm just not thinking like that. Now I'm just kind of thinking about who are these characters and who is the best actor to play those characters? Who is the best actress to play this character?
The past 2.5 years, all of us have been in lockdown. I mean, this is just so crazy that so many people are all together in one spot, but it's amazing.
Oh, it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting to see this many people in one room, and I can see most of your faces. Not you, but everybody else.
How did you use that time? Did you use it to work on a new script? Did you use it to enjoy fatherhood? Did you use it to be inspired by something else? Because you've written a novel and a second book is coming out in the fall.
Yeah, well, it just so happened that it worked out to be the situation of I was able to, I had already started it, but I was able to finish my novel and then go through all the proofreading junk on it. And then I was also able to write the next book that's coming out, which is a cinema book. But, the most important thing was, basically I just, I spent the first 2 years of my son's life just right there because there was nothing taking me away. Everybody was shut down. Now, I probably would have done that anyway because I don't have to go and work for a living. So I probably would have more or less been there. Probably wouldn't have done a movie in that time. But the whole, but in that situation, like the entire world conspired for me to spend the first 2 years of my son's life with him at the house every day. And that was terrific.
A lot has changed when you look at the way that movies are being perceived and being broadcasted. We have streamers, you can do it via social media, but you're someone who enjoys, the new technological challenges, but you stay true to what you think a movie should be made with. Is that going to change with the next project? I mean, are you interested in suddenly, instead of, having one movie, telling a series, having snippets, changing it at all? Is that a challenge for you, or is that something that you kind of...
I think, it's an interesting question you're asking, because as far as theatrical movies are concerned, the way I've always known them, they're undecided right now. And I think it's going to be a couple of years before the dust settles and we realize, okay, this is the situation for movies now. And if it's drastically different than the industry that I signed up for, then I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in, after working 30 years, to work for diminishing returns. And so I think, I got in this industry for a reason. And if the industry's changed, my reasons for doing them have changed. So I don't know. I think I won't know for another couple of years. Things are very different right now. I mean, before, you'd make a film and then, 6 or 7 months later, it would show up on the movie channels, on cable and all that stuff. And to me, that seemed too short. It seemed like it should be, it plays in the theater, and a year later, it shows up. Now, it's like it plays in the theater 40 days, and then all the streaming channels get it, if they don't get it simultaneously. Well, that's not the industry I signed up for. Okay, that's television. That's just television, all right? Now, if you're making television, well, that's fucking great. All right, but if I'm making a movie that's supposed to work in a theater with an audience, that they all have a collective experience, that's not good enough. That literally would be me working to diminishing returns. And I don't need to do that. Now, I'm saying all that, there is a positive side to all this if you choose to look at it this way. I kind of just don't choose to look at it this way. I mean, like, a case can be made that there was a commercial tyranny. Okay, the way we used to make movies, before 2019, everything before 2019, there is this aspect that when it came to by releasing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 2019, that I do feel that I fucking flew out the window just before the window slammed shut on the entire industry. And then from that year on, nothing else was the same. And I literally just like got through the door just as it worked. But the thing is, the way we would do, the Hollywood that I've always known, there was a financial tyranny involved in it. The movie had to do well. It had to make its money back if it was going to be successful. But the tyranny was even worse than that, because it was a situation you spend 2 years of your life making a movie, or a little bit more, at least from the time that I write the first page, to the point that I'm now taking it around the world. Okay, that's about 2.5 years of your life. And then it all came down to how well the movie did that opening weekend. Nothing else was more important. That was it. Whatever it did that opening weekend, you knew right away. You knew from the Friday it opened, whether or not the movie was going to be a success or not. Okay, a case can be made that that's a tyrannical situation to create art in. So the way, people make movies for streaming services now, or they, do and there was a time limit on there. Now, you can make a movie that's 4 hours long, 5 hours long. Who cares? If you're watching it on Netflix, well, you watch it for a while, you turn it off, and you watch it the next day. And there's not that tyranny going on of this movie has to do whatever it's going to do in these specific 3 days. And maybe you're lucky and maybe you're not. So in that regards, there's this tremendous opportunity that you don't have this tyrannical situation on your shoulder anymore. And you can just make it. Well, yeah, that sounds kind of cool, but none of these movies mean anything. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're not part of the zeitgeist. They're not part of the collective conversation that's going on. That was the thing about movies. When they mattered, they were part of the pop culture conversation. When a movie was popular, whether you saw it or not, everyone knew about it. Everyone was plugged in. And, now these streaming services this is the second biggest movie we've ever made. And I go, what the fuck is this movie? And you could bring it up to 20 people and they wouldn't know what the hell you're talking about either. Oh, isn't that thing with The Rock on blah, blah, blah? So... so there's a way to look at it that's not so depressing, but I'm really all about bringing a bunch of strangers into a room and having a collective experience with them. And anything less than that, like I said, is diminishing returns.
I'm not such a big expert on movies as Steven is, but I wanted to throw in one question. After your passionate talk, keeping that in mind, I was quite surprised to hear in the past season that you are dabbling with NFTs, which is a huge topic here, non-fungible tokens, this whole new thing. For me, it sounds surprising that after all you said, that this is an industry or this is a topic that you would go into. Why is that?
Well, that was just a situation. I can't, we got a lawsuit going on, so I can't go into super detail about it. But that was just when somebody was explaining to me what an NFT was, first I had to get my head around it. I had to, okay, so you own it, but you don't own it. I had to figure it out. But once I did, it was like, well, I have the handwritten script of Pulp Fiction. What if I were to take a scene from that handwritten, written in pen script of Pulp Fiction and present it as an NFT? You think anyone would be interested in that? They go, yeah, that would be fucking great. But more often than not, I think it proved to be true. A lot of the directors, like say in the 70s, that were older and were continue making movies into the 70s and some into the 80s, like a George Cukor or a Howard Hawks or a Billy Wilder or somebody like that. You know, for the most part, the reason they kept making movies is because they're old. That was their life. They didn't know what else to do. What the fuck else are they going to do? They're not going to make movies. But I don't want to make them. I don't want to make movies because that's the only thing I know how to do, or I just want to be on a set because I don't know how to fill up my day. Other than that, I am a writer. And I could just write. I could write books. I could write another cinema book. I could write all kinds of stuff.
You do podcasts as well.
Yeah. What?
You do podcasts as well.
Yeah, I've been guesting on podcasts before. Yeah.
But I hear that there's your own podcast coming out.
Yeah, me and Roger Avery, who I wrote Pulp Fiction with, we're doing a podcast together. So the thing about it, you know, and also, like I said, I got a son. I've been, you know, I didn't have a family before because I was busy. I had stuff I wanted to do. I was climbing mountains. Now, you know, now I want to climb those mountains with my little boy.
So that's a great idea. Ladies and gentlemen, a living legend, Quentin Tarantino. All the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for coming by.
Quentin, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.
Philipp, danke dir.